Well, welcome tonight. Welcome, everyone. So glad to see you. This is our session entitled Lessons from Past Contest Winners, a Q&A panel session. Now, normally you'd think that would mean contestants only, but we all know that contestants may win the contest, yes, but all the other staff and functionaries who participate, they win too when we have a successful contest. So we are going to hear tonight from folks that represent every major component of the contest: the contestants, the contest master, the chief judge, and the contest chair. This is our capstone session for our 2024 club contest training. And we have a whole variety of other sessions that have already been done, and they have been recorded, and they are up on the District 44 YouTube channel. So if you wanted to see those replays, you can make it over there and take a look at all of those replays, which are, I think everything except one is live right now. I've dropped a link in the chat, then that will take you over to our District 44 training playlist. Then you can check out all of those trainings over there. So tonight, our panelists sort of represent their dignitaries. Some of them are luminaries from the District 44 universe. So we'll start with those who have the greatest honors, and we'll work our way on down the chain. Lana McFarland is with us, past district director, past region advisor. She is going to be representing our chief judge role tonight. Thank you, Lana, for joining us. Next, we have our program quality director, Yolanda J., our current PQD. She is serving as tech master. Thank you so much, Yolanda, for doing that. Appreciate that greatly. Then we have two co-equals in the firmament there in District 44. Afyong Ekong is a past division director and currently our admin manager, one of the senior 7. She'll be representing contest master role. Thank you, Afyong. Next to her is Yanni Wen. Yanni is a past division director, and she is our finance manager this year, one of the senior 7. Thank you so much, Yanni. And then representing our contestants, we have our current area director for E54, Bita Shahidi. Thank you, Bita, for being a contestant for us. And Shannon Kreger, who's not a current area director, but a past area director twice for F64. Thank you so much, Shannon, for joining us. I appreciate that. So tonight, here's our agenda. We are going to talk to the different roles sort of one by one. We'll move our way through. We'll ask them a bunch of questions, get their expert opinions. Audience, if you have questions for the panelists, please drop those in the chat. As we get to the end of each section, we'll return to those questions and we'll ask those of our panelists as well. So we're going to start tonight with contestants. So in our contestant role is both Shannon Kreger and Bita. So I'm going to start with you, Shannon, because I know that I have personally competed with you, against you in previous years, and you have soundly beat me. And so I want to ask you this question. When you are working on preparing your contest speech, and I want to talk about the international speech, what's your strategy? What kind of strategy do you use to put that speech together?
Well, the first thing I do is, do I have a story to tell? And when I competed this past April, I definitely had a story to tell. And I began practicing that speech probably January of 2023. And it took on different levels and it looked differently. I have the advantage of being in an advanced Toastmasters club at Speakers Roundtable. So that was really beneficial with getting their coaching and their feedback, but it's continuing to edit, just like a writer would do.
They say writing is actually rewriting. It sounds like speaking is actually re-speaking.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Years ago when I competed, I did exactly the same thing over and over again, right? Back to edit it as you get feedback. So I want to bounce over to Bita. So Bita, I know that you've competed twice at the International Speech Contest. And so the question I have for you is, when contestants are looking at preparing for the contest environment itself, right? When you're standing at the club, when you win that and you go onto the area and you're in that environment, what do you do to help prepare for that particular environment? What's your advice for someone who's facing that?
Honestly, I like to show up early and maybe even a day before or two before and assess the situation. I like to see where the stage is, where people are going to be sitting. I like to go up on the stage, just get a feel for the room itself. That's what I would do before anybody even shows up. And then what I really like to do, the speeches that I always give at the club level or anywhere else, on the day of the speech, I like to be the first one there because I love to say hi to people as they come in. And that kind of relaxes me, to be honest with you, when I get to know them. When I say, hey, hi, what is your name? Welcome, this is cool, come on in. And that just kind of makes me feel like I know these people a little bit by the time the speech starts. So if I answered your questions correctly, that's what I would do to prepare for that speech environment.
So just a pro tip, you're one of our experts tonight, so whatever answer you give is the correct answer, Vita.
Okay.
So it sounds like when you talk to folks, this helps maybe to let out some of that anxiety, some of that nervous energy that builds up.
Well, and it reminds me that it's not about me. I remind myself that this speech is about the message that I'm giving to people and what they're getting from it. Because when I do that, I immediately relax. Because if I'm always worried about, oh, how am I going to look? How am I going to sound? Then it becomes about me. And then I become this performer who is worried about how to perform versus what are the audience getting from your story, from your speech. Meeting people right before reminds me of that. And when I go up on the stage, I'm like, okay, let's get this done.
That's a great
Let's.
point. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Along those lines, Shannon, let me ask you this because I know you've competed many, many times. How do you manage your nerves and perform your best?
Well, this past time that I competed, I compiled a playlist on Spotify that I entitled D44 Speech International Speech Contest. And I started listening to that playlist probably back in February. And I remember walking into the hotel the morning of the contest, and I had my earbuds in, and I was constantly like keep playing that music over and over again. But you're still going to get nervous. I mean, I've done theater all my life, and you still get nervous. I was number 7 competing, and I remember being at the end of the line and just taking really deep breaths. But once I got up there, then it was like, okay, I'm going to command attention. But it's natural to get nervous.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like, you can anchor to the songs in that playlist and that it brings the nervousness down, right? To a manageable level.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Bita, let me ask this. What do you think are some of the most common pitfalls that contestants can fall into when they're getting ready for the contest?
When they're getting ready for the contest. I think one of the things is asking too many people what they think about the speech. Honestly, I have found that I kept going back and changing, and somebody else would say something. Then I go change that again. And at some point, you got to make a decision that, what resonates with you. You got to take in the feedback. And I do that. I rehearse my speech many times at the club to get ready for the contest because I want to get that feedback. But at the end of the day, if you make too many changes, then you're going to lose what you originally had as a message in the middle of that. So got to be careful with that. I know we are often telling people ask for feedback, rehearse it to everybody, to your family, to people at the club. But I think sometimes we can overdo that. And every time somebody says something, we go change the speech. And you have to be careful of that. So there's a balance in that.
That makes a lot of
That's
sense.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest pitfalls I can think of. I think the other thing is feeling a little too confident and not practicing enough. I know that I think one of the things I do is, and like Shannon said, just practice so much that remembering what I was going to say is not going to be an object. That is, that is not even in the equation, because I want to make room to improvise if I need to. I want to make room to be able to, use body language and hand gesture and just put it all out there and not worry about, well, what was I really going to talk about? And get too caught up in the performance side of it and then forget what my message was to begin with. So again, you gotta know your speech so well that you can portray your emotions on the stage. You can improvise if you need to, because you know your message. And I think one of the pitfalls is people don't practice enough, or they try to memorize their speech. You never want to do that. Yes, you want to know what you're talking about, but memorizing doesn't mean anything if you don't understand the core of your message and what you want to say.
Understood. Yeah, we've heard that advice many, many times, right? Don't memorize verbatim, because you break the chain and then you can't find your way back.
Exactly.
Shannon, what's one of the things that you wish you knew before you competed? And this is a story question, and you learned it the hard way, right? Something you wish you had known before you competed, but you ended up learning the hard way.
I think back to the first time that I competed at the international, which was in 2017. And I think at that point I was like, well, I made it this far. I'm gonna win. And I let my ego get in the way. And I did not place that year. And I was upset, but looking back on it now, I wouldn't have placed me. And it is a big accomplishment to get there, but I let my ego get in the way. And after that, I took some time off because at that point I was an area director. But then when I competed for 2019, that was in May of 2019, I hired a speech coach that I worked with her, Natalie Gallagher, for 9 months. I worked with her and I put my ego aside and just focused on what was the message that I was wanting to deliver. And it paid off, and I placed second in 2019.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right, last question. And this one for Shannon. What did you learn from some of your earlier contest experiences that helped to shape how you approach contests now?
Do not partake in the festivities the night before. Don't do it. Don't stay up having a good time the night before. So that's why now I usually just show up the day of the contest and stay the night, because you need to get a well-rested sleep, be refreshed. There'll be time to celebrate after the contest. Don't do it.
Understood, right? Party after, not before.
Yeah, party after, not before.
Fantastic. Well, at this point, we can take any questions from our audience if we have any. I don't see any questions in the chat at the moment, so we could give our audience a chance to come off mute if you have a question and just go ahead and fire away. What questions do we have from our audience?
I stepped in a little bit late, so perhaps you already discussed this, but what was the biggest takeaway that you got from participating?
Okay. Bita, why don't we give this question to you?
The biggest takeaway for me participating, again, and I did say this earlier, is you really have to figure out what your message is for people. and say it in a way that the audience can relate to you. And you want to have a unique perspective on that story. We all as human beings have very many similar stories, and we all go through similar experiences. But I learned that as you want to go higher in the contest, your perspective's got to be more unique every time. And, you know, not just about delivering the speech, but you have to have that unique approach to what your message is. You know, for example, if I'm talking about losing weight and how difficult it was, for example, just an example of, you know, sticking with the diet and things like that. Well, I might want to approach on the mental mindset part of it, how I had to change my mindset, my entire mindset about, you know, my life, my health as a whole. So, you know, it's just something that not everybody typically thinks about. You just approach it from a different angle. That's something that I've gotten. If I can summarize it all in one sentence, that's what I would say.
Thank you, Bita. We'll take one final question, this one for Shannon. Shannon, what would you tell brand new baby Toastmasters to encourage them to get into a contest and compete?
It has to start, I believe, at the club level. I've seen people that are brand new Toastmasters that are scared to death to even get up and do a table topic. So start taking on the roles. Any role, as Paul Hazard likes to say, is a chance to speak. If you're the counter, that's a chance to speak. If you're the timer, that's the chance to speak. And then work your way up. Work your way up to being table topics master and then Toastmaster and then giving speeches and get comfortable with that. And the beauty of we're not having it this year, but like a table topics contest, that's not something you really have to prepare for. So start small if you're not ready. If you're not ready to do international yet, start small, but start taking those roles and know that you're, and I think it's important to get into a club where you feel like you're in a safe environment and that people are going to encourage you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, Bita, Shannon, thank you both so much for being our contestant experts tonight. Everybody, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So in the next section, we're going to move to someone who deals directly with contestants all the way through the whole contest, the contest master. Now, an astute student of the rule book would discover that when you go to the rule book and you search for the word master, it doesn't show up. There's no reference to the word master or contest master in the rule book at all. But what we've found is that this is an essential role to really help the contest move along very, very smoothly. So we're going to turn to Afyong Ekong tonight. Afyong, I know that you have been a contest master more than a few times. You and I were in the contest trenches together last year. I saw you do that. And the contest master is like the circus master. You got to sort of keep the attention where it belongs and hide everything that's happening in the back. What is your strategy to bring a lot of high energy to the contest master role and keep the audience engaged throughout the whole thing?
Thank you so much, Chad, for that question. I am an acronym person, so I'm going to start with the first letter of master, contest master, the letter M. And for me, it means magic. It means magnetism. As the contest master, you set the mood. As our PQD shared earlier this week, you create the vibe. You set the tone in terms of the contest itself. Think about charisma. Now, I'm not a TikToker, but I do know TikTokers use the word Riz. You need someone with charisma. You need someone that's going to create that energy. So the first letter of master I would submit has to do with magic and magnetism, being sure that you're setting the tone for the contest.
Very good. Yeah, I completely agree. I would encourage folks, drink a lot of water and take a bunch of vitamin B. You're going to need
And
it.
don't eat a lot before you're a contest master. Eat after.
Absolutely. So I'm sure you've been involved at a time when something in a contest went off track. Can you tell us, a time when that happened and how did you manage to bring it back?
So again, I would say maybe puppet master, M for master, but the second letter in A for master is A. So it's being agile. It's knowing that everything is not going to go as planned, but you need to have that agility, that flexibility, because things will happen. You'll have to deal with lots of emotions. It could be technology. It could be the venue. But that second letter in master also stands for being approachable. So just remember, when you're going through something that the whole rest of the audience has no idea is going on, you need to be able to demonstrate that agility. I remember one time in particular where there was a protest and it lasted 30 minutes to handle the protest. So it's being agile. What did I do in that situation? I moved to different portions of the contest, announcements. I went to the audience to ask table topics questions. I encouraged us to have a break for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Just remember that you need to be agile and flexible and be aware of your resources.
You know, you bring up a great point that when you're up there as contest master, you've got a variety of tools to cover with, to spend time, right? And you hit on some of those: table topics, questions, announcements, a short story. You can even take a break and then come back when things are fixed. Yeah, that helps you to be agile. Great, great point. So there are some parts of the contest that are fairly sober and they're quite well defined, right? When you're announcing the speakers, when you're waiting in silence for the judges to do their thing, you have to be fairly professional and streamlined. But when you get to other parts, you sort of turn into an entertainer as you help the audience pass the time while you're waiting for the judging results to happen. How do you balance those two kind of approaches in the same contest?
What a great question. Thinking about balancing it, I'm going to the third letter in master. It is about support. And when I say support, it's supporting our Toastmasters values. The balance that we each have as Toastmasters is balancing professionalism and the Toastmasters brand. So just being mindful of, you can be entertaining, just be sure that we're aligning it with the Toastmasters brand and values, right? Respect, integrity, service, and excellence. You can tell a really great joke, just be sure it aligns with our Toastmasters values. It's a slippery slope, however, it can be done. And we as Toastmasters balance that in our Toastmasters journey.
Thank you. So a lot of practice helps a lot. Absolutely.
I'm in HR and I just remember with the dress code, if you have to pull it down or pull it up, you don't need to wear it, right? So the same thing, if you're a little questionable about whether you should say something, err on the side of caution and don't say it. Move on.
That's a great point. That's a great point. So talking about practice and being smooth, when you're transitioning between contestants, like during the contest, that's structured, you're announcing them, that's really straightforward. But when you're transitioning between contestants during the interview, what tips do you have to keep those transitions smooth, moving from one contestant to the next?
I think leveraging the contestant profile form is a wonderful resource. You can keep things moving smoothly by asking the same question or piggybacking on a question, making sure that you're using a template that's tried and true. That's right, I went to the fourth letter in master. Template, tried and true. Use something that is familiar to you. That way it appears that it's seamless and everyone is being treated the same, but you're still having and creating a wonderful experience.
Thank you. Yeah, the profile is essential. Absolutely. Inevitably, right, you're going to run into problems. There's going to be technical problems. There'll be procedural issues when that happens in the contest. How do you prepare? You mentioned agile earlier. How do you prepare to be agile before those things ever happen?
As contest master, it's really being educated and informed about the entire contest, knowing how the contest is going to flow from beginning to end, and making sure that you're engaged in the process. There's nothing worse, and I've seen it, than a contest master that has no idea what to do when something happens. You need to be able to tap into that arsenal, be empowered, to make decisions, to move things around. Be engaged, read your audience. If you've lost the audience, you need to find a way to get your audience back. So it's really sometimes about being engaged and being empowered. And then sometimes it's Elmo, enough, let's move on. Let's move on to something else to keep the party going. And again, sorry, that's the 5th letter in master for contest master.
All right. Well, thank you. So, okay, last question from me for the contest master. You want to create a positive experience for the contestants. I mean, after all, the contest really is about them. The spotlight is on them. What do you think is the key for helping the contestants to have a positive experience?
In my opinion, the last letter in master for contest master is R, which is real. It's being your real, authentic self, meeting people where they are, understanding their nerves, their anxiety, their questions, being able to just be genuine and respond, again, the last letter in master, respond to their experience. Overall, the contest master, as I started at the beginning with the magic and the magnetism, it's about creating the vibe, not just for the contest, but you want to be able to create that vibe with the contestants. When all is said and done, when the contest starts, all the contestants have are you as a contest master or the chief judge. So be your real self, connect with them, create that R rapport, and I believe you'll be a successful contest master.
Yeah, agreed completely. I think the rapport between contestants and contest master is so important. They're looking to you, right? To say what will happen, when it will happen, how it will happen. And having that rapport can help them relax so they can perform their very best. Yeah, completely agreed. Well, thank you, Afyong. So now we'll turn to the audience. Audience, do you have any questions, any contest master questions for Afyong? You can drop them in chat, or, we're an intimate group here. You can come right off mute and just go ahead and ask. I love to give folks a moment to find the mute button. The hardest button to find, right? Yeah. All right. Okay. Not hearing any questions for contest master. Well, everybody, Afyong, thank you so much. We appreciate your experience and sharing that with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
you.
Remember, you can be a master at being a contest master.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to move forward. We want to talk to the rule master of the contest. This is the chief judge. So for this area, we're going to speak with Lana McFarland, past district director, past region advisor. Lana, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
You are in the contest. You're the head of the staff, right? I mean, the chief judge really is the chief wrangler for voting judges, tiebreaker judge, ballot counters, timers, sergeant at arms, and so on. As the contest approaches, what is your technique? What's your method for training all these staff to make sure that they understand what they have to do during the contest?
Thank you. The first thing I do to be prepared is to read the contest Bible, which is the contest rule book, the current contest rule book, not the contest rule book from 2010, the current one, 2024 to 2025, because things change. And how do I identify when they've changed in the rule book? There's little diamonds. And usually those little diamonds and those changes is for something that happened to a previous contest that shouldn't have, and now TI has had to update the rule book. How I train the judges, and with Zoom and virtual being available, before what we used to do was have everybody there, then pull out the functionaries to a separate room and give them the overview. Now, what I've been doing is I will get the judges, the functionaries, which includes the sergeant at arms, the ballot counters, and the judges, starting with the ballot counters, just to give them a high-level overview and also to identify who the judges are going to be, especially now that area and above are going to be in person. If the ballot counters know who the judges are, because the judges are supposed to be confidential. I've been to contests where they've had all the judges sit up the front in a row. How you might as well put a banner up and say, "We're the judges." The best thing to do, but you want to ensure that the judges are close enough that they can hear, but have them sort of spotted throughout the contest, but also to make sure they're not sitting near someone, if possible, where somebody can see their judging ballot scoring. So what I've been doing of late is scheduling a call, whatever the date of the contest is going to be, scheduling a call, preferably in the evening, with the functionaries, either the night before or at least 2 nights before. This gives the opportunity for the judges to know perhaps who the contestants are, but whichever contest is taking place, that they understand the purpose of the ballot. Do they understand the scoring? It's personal, it's private. Do they understand that they would have to break their own tie? Always making a suggestion that obviously if more than one contestant, starting at the end where it's supposed to be contestant number 10, I usually recommend that they start with that person as number 1, and then they can fold it, because that way they can keep their judging more neutral. They're not looking at what they scored for the previous contestant. With the timers, making sure that they understand the first motion or the first word is when they start timing, not waving, making any type of signal, that they understand for, depending on the contest. Table topics, they are required to speak a minimum of 1 minute to 2 minutes, 30 seconds. 2 timers, usually I ask for both timers to keep score. And the reason for that is just in case the primary timer gets carried away, looking and listening, because you can. If you've got contestants who are really good, you get carried away and you may not have timed and started the timing straight away. But keep them visible and minimize their distraction as well. Ballot counters should be ready to be able to get up, know who the judges are, and be able to collect the ballots, which we usually recommend when it's in person, have them put it in an envelope. But judges, please don't seal your envelope. We've had people do that. And it's like, we're not going to open it in the middle of the room. So no need to seal, just put them in the envelope and be discreet. The chief judge is the only person who collects the tiebreaker ballot, not the timers, not the ballot counters, only the chief judge. With the timing forms, the ballot counters can collect, or usually I try to collect the ballot counter myself as the chief judge. And that minimizes if there is a disqualification, that it minimizes. However, if we go out from a room, I do make sure that the ballot counters are privy if there was a disqualification of time. Make sure you have all the forms that are required as a chief judge. The notification of the winners, there is which includes, was there a disqualification of time, and third, second, and third place, first place, so that way you've got everything concise. I'm not sure, sometimes the contest master or the contest chair gives the chief judge the certificates. So it's all dependent, but these are the things in regards to ensuring that the timers, the ballot counters understand their roles clearly. And that way, again, if you have a separate call, either the night before or 2 nights before, sending out emails, making sure that everybody has what they need, making sure also that the judges fill out their appropriate forms. The form that the ethics form, and also the form of which contest that they're competing. There has to be one form for each contest. You can't have one form for all of the contests. There should be one for each contest. Let's see. And also just to confirm, what's their level of how long have they been in Toastmasters? Are they brand new? If it's for the international speech contest, they are required, judges are required to have completed at least level 2 of any path or be a DTM. If it's less than that, they are not qualified to be a judge for the international speech contest. For all the other contests, they can. However, taking into account their seniority, they would need a little bit more coaching. They'd need a little bit more, give them time to understand and ask questions. But again, if they don't know what they don't know, please read the rule book. I'm not going to go over and, through the rule book. I will hit on some points, but be prepared, come prepared. So that's what I try to do when training the judges. But I also recommend volunteer, step up and go to contests and learn and see, especially if you've got a seasoned Toastmaster like Shannon and Beta, because if you're new, you're going to think, oh my God, they're great. They may have given the crappiest speech, but because you're fairly new, you think, oh, wow, they're wonderful. However, in evaluation contest, I ask the judges, do not go for someone who's made the most noise, and I've heard it happen, and I've seen that person win. They gave no recommendations. They gave no summary. They gave no feedback of improvement or what they did well. So be mindful, read the ballot and understand what each area means.
Lana, you touched on something that was very important right there at the end, which has to do with judging with impartiality, making sure that judging is fair and transparent. That's one of the biggest challenges. You've been in contest, I've been in contests where contestants felt that the judging wasn't fair, right? It wasn't impartial. As chief judge, how do you help to ensure that that actually happens to the greatest extent that you can?
Thank you. Years ago, there was a young man who I happened to be a judge at every level he gave that speech, from the club level to the area, to the division, to the district, because he kept winning. And every time he saw me, he's like, oh crap, you're here again. As a judge, you have to pretend as though you never saw that person before. If you stick to the criteria of the ballot and take out, oh, I know Shannon, or I know Beda, I like their story, but did the story make sense? Did the story have a purpose? But don't always look for, well, there was no call to action. Does there need to be? You don't know everybody in the audience's circumstances as to whether or not a call of action would be necessary. So make sure you're really listening to the speaker and view them as though you've never seen them before. Even if you just saw them at the previous level contest, act as though you've never seen them before, but really pay attention and listen and look at the judging criteria. Did they use words that didn't make sense? Where are they from? Make sure you keep in mind their culture. Is English their first language? And I'm not saying if that's the case, then you give them a break. They're competing. We've got contestants from all around the world who compete in the international speech contest. That's taken into consideration because all the speeches must be done in English by the time they get to the international convention. But have an open mind, be partial. How would you want to be judged for it to be fair? So you sitting as a judge, are you really being honest that you are judging per the criteria of the ballot and that you're judging fair? If you, per the recommendation of hiding the previous contestant, and you find that you've got a tie of the two, you've got to break it. You have to break it, but you also need to make sure, just because I love Shannon, but her speech was crappy, am I going to put her forward as for the next level to represent either the club level, the area level, the division level, or the district? Is that the best intent? Look for the person who is going to do your club proud or do your area proud. Make sure that you are being impartial and putting the person most deserved, not the most well liked. And that's, I've seen happen, that there wasn't impartiality. It's because they knew the person. No, and then that causes a conflict. If there is a protest made before the final decision has been made, then that can be addressed. If somebody comes up to you afterwards, whether it's a judge, chief judge, and the results were put in place, it's too late. And please don't call TI. They couldn't care less and they can't do anything about it. We've had it happen.
You're so right about that. Results are final at the level at which they occur, right? TI doesn't
Exactly.
step in and change that.
No, whatever level of the contest, if it's at the club and only one person was appointed to represent the club, they must have qualified on time. We've been in a situation where our area director at the time had 4 clubs, and one of the clubs had 2 contestants. One wasn't able to attend, the other person didn't qualify on time, and she was asking, could they just put somebody else in the place? No, you can't do that. You can't do that. So if you only have one contestant in the club level and they compete, but they must qualify on time, whatever the timing criteria is per the contest. Now for tall tales, it's 3 to 5 minutes, not 5 to 7. So please be careful, be sure, and make sure, contest masters, wherever you are, whoever you're going to be, that you are clear on that. Again, read the TI Contest Bible, which is the current contest rulebook.
Thank you so much, Lana. I appreciate that. That was the last question that I had for you. So we're going to turn to the audience. Audience, do you have any questions for our chief judge? There are so many rules to discuss.
There was, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
yes.
there's something that you didn't ask in regards to if there is a disqualification at the during the contest. If one of that the protest can only be approached by either one of the contestants or the judges. And that has to be done to either the chief judge or the contest master before the results are in. If there is a valid contest, protest, the candidate, the contestant is brought in to an approach and is made known that there has been a protest due to, and usually it's originality, and they're allowed to state their case, after which the remaining judges all have to get together. So it's a disruption. And especially now that it's going to be in person, because when you see the judges coming out, again, like Afion said, something's happened. Now you've got to go off. Now you've got to all discuss what happened, and it's got to be the majority consensus as to whether or not you're going to disqualify that contestant and they're out, or whether it's like, okay, we understand and it's agreed that they either just touched the line or it was less than 25% of originality. They were quoting somebody or they didn't quote somebody, or they used a whole bunch of quotes throughout their speech. You can only have the maximum of 25% in your speech referring to someone else. The new rule is no contestant can refer to any of the other contestants competing in that contest. They cannot, through their speech, say, you know, something like what Chad did, and he's a contestant, you will be disqualified. Can't do it. That used to be something that contestants used to do. That is in the rule book. No contestant can refer to either something said or another contestant who is competing in that contest.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I agree. That is a new rule. It tripped a few people up when it came in for the first time. We've got a hand raised by somebody who's on the phone. So caller, I feel like this is a radio show. Could you come off mute and ask your question, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon. When the contestant wins at the club level, is it the same speech if they keep winning, going all the way to the district? Is it the same speech?
They can. There is nothing preventing a contestant from using the speech that they won at the club level. They can use that all the way to the district level. There is nothing, the only time that they cannot do that is when it gets past the district level. Does that answer your question?
And is it the same criteria on each ballot for the same speech?
Yes. In other words, it doesn't matter what level it is. There isn't a club level judging ballot. There isn't an area level judging ballot. It's a Toastmaster ballot that's in the package that is provided by Toastmasters International that each level is required to use and refer to in a contest, whether it's the club level, area level, division level, district level, and even at world headquarters. It is the same ballot. It's a Toastmasters ballot. We're not allowed, because one year they wanted to do some funky thing and make up a ballot that you could do because it was virtual. You are not allowed to do that. And that is something, if it's virtual, is discussed how the judges would submit the ballot to the chief judge, but that would be discussed during the briefing. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And who are you besides 302?
I'm president of the Beyond Site Communicators.
Okay, I'm sorry, and your name?
Varita.
Varita, okay, thank you. I appreciate your question.
Varita is also one of our area directors in District 44.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Burita. Thank you, Lana, so much. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. Our hope, our intent is that by all of our panelists sharing experience with you, you will come away, audience members, thinking, oh, I have a better grasp on contest now. I can do this role. There's this thing that I wanted to do. I can go do it now. I feel empowered and educated. Thank you, Lana. All right. We're going to move to our last segment for our session, and that is contest chair. Contest chair holds a special place because they are the mastermind of the contest. They are the one that puts together all of the staff. They find the contest master. They find the chief judge. They help find the voting judges. They structure and organize it all. And for this, we're going to talk to Yanni Wen, our current finance manager. Thank you, Yanni, so much. So Yanni, as you are preparing for the contest, what is your process to find people who are going to fill your staff roles? How do you go about doing that?
Thank you so much, Chad. As you said, you as a contest chair, you are actually the project manager. First of all, I would like to draw back to the rule book. So first of all, before you even go out and look for anyone, read the rule book. After that, if this is in the club level, I will tap into my club officer first. As far as those like the important, I'm not saying that there's any pieces of the contest are more important than other, because we have to fill all roles to make a full successful contest. But I will look at my club officer for contest master, chief judge, because they will be the one who will actually help me out to make a strong contest. Then I'll probably, if you have a smaller club, I will reach out to my other club that you know. In the area contest, I would probably will tap into my other area directors, division directors. So that's what I would want to do. For the functionaries, ballot counter or timers, I would normally try to utilize as much as possible my club members.
It seems that the functionaries, ballot counter, timer, sergeant at arms, these are great introductory roles to being a functionary in the contest, right? Because they don't take quite as much involvement, quite as much experience as being a judge or higher. Yeah, agreed completely. So you want to be sure that the contest runs smoothly. Nobody likes a bumpy contest. Nobody wants to go to a club contest and have it run for 4 hours because there's mistakes all over the place, right? What are the most important steps that you take? Like, what are your top 1, 2, 3 things that you address before the contest to help everything go smoothly?
Great question. And you're going to take this, the one key that you're going to take away from this session tonight from this role is the preparation. You cannot actually underestimate your preparation time. It never been too much. So I would actually, of course, read the rule book. You have to understand in and out on what's going on. I honestly read some and then I put away. I was like, that's kind of boring, right? But then I pull it back up so many times and we're like, oh, did I remember something that I forgot? You will see yourself actually go back several times. And after that, you will know like, okay, maybe now I understand. But it probably gonna take you a few contests before you it really like deep down to the requirement. As Lana said, every year they might be the same, but if they change, there will be the diamond shape at the beginning of that role that will actually kind of bring that out, the important part that you have to really pay attention. Stay in with the template. I know the district is gonna share with us that toolkit that we talk about during this week, right? In there, you will see the template. Use that one. You're gonna go back there so many times. Starting preparing even though your contest is a month away. Start to put down all the names, you know who they are. Once you recruit things, you put them there. And then do not assume, this is the things that I wanna make sure, do not assume that your chief judge will recruit all of the voting judges. You wanna make sure you talk to your chief judge who will be recruiting the voting judge, because there was a misunderstanding before when chief judge is given a role to be a chief judge, contest chair just assume they are gonna be take over recruiting the judges. Talk to your chief judge, make sure you guys are clear who are recruiting the voting judge, as well as who is doing the briefing. Normally, the chief judge would do the judge briefing and the functionary briefing, but do not assume that as well. And normally, the contest master will do the contestant briefing. Do not assume that as well, because sometimes the contest chair also do that. So really, the communication, you never been over communicated to make sure you have a well-prepared contest.
Yeah, agreed. You touched on so many good things there. By the way, for folks, the link to the D44 speech contest toolkit just got dropped in the chat. So you can use that link over there and find all the resources. Like you pointed out, Yanni, being prepared, communicating, frequent communication, so you know where all your functionaries are at. Things happen. Sometimes people say yes, and then they can't, and you need to switch. Yeah, I agree. Preparation is absolutely key here. What you've been in a lot of contests. I've seen you be in contests, run contests, help with contests. What are some of the common mistakes that you see in the contest chair role, and how can folks who are, you know, taking on that role for the club level, how can they avoid those mistakes?
Great question, Chad. I know I knew you 2 contests 2 years ago. I remember that year because I was so glad that I get to know this Chad. I was like, who is this guy that I never seen before? During that year, I learned a lot I was a division director at that time. Something popped in to me. I always like to prepare, right? I'm gonna go back to this preparation again. You never assume, as you said earlier, someone when say yes to you a month ago will show up on your contest if you do not constantly giving them a message, either pop in a quick email, say, our contest is 2 weeks away or 1 week away. Do not just assume they will be there once you already give them that job, even though it's a timer job, right? Or ballot counter job. So make sure even touch base with them the night before, 2 nights before. If you don't get them 2 nights before, make sure you get a hold with them the night before to understand they are still there to help you. You need to make that plan ahead of time to be able to move around people if you have to. One mistake that I keep seeing was if you have chosen a chief judge and the chief judge is not available for any reason, that happened live, right? And you're assuming all of the voting judges might be already be recruited. And when you give another person the chief judge role, which the contest is about a week to come, that will give the burden for this new chief judge that coming to help you. They cannot really find the voting judge within that. It's gonna be hard if possible within that 1 week time advance notice. So really be understanding on where everything is. Again, you are the project manager. You wanna own that. This is your project. Do not underestimate, you overdo what you are doing here. Bottom line, again, preparation. There's not much to say rather than prepare, prepare, prepare. And then even though you recruit new people, you want to make sure the person that recruiting, back to your first question, they are teachable. You know, you can lend them a hand, you know you are available for them, but another thing is they are teachable. If they are teachable, it's so you have that asset already, and there's nothing that you will go wrong by giving them all of the message and all of the knowledge.
Agreed completely. Thank you. So Yanni, due to time, that is the last question that I have for you, but we have a question from the audience from Barita. Barita, if you could come off mute and ask your question for Yanni, that'd be great.
Barita, I think she forgot to put her hand down, Chad.
Oh, got it. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, George. I appreciate that. In that case, I would like to ask, does anybody, what questions would you like to ask Yanni? Anybody else on contest chair?
Hello?
Hello, Barita. Did you have a question for Yanni about contest chair? No? Yes, no? I'll take that as a no. All right. Well, that brings us that brings us to the end. We are right up against it. So I wanted to thank all of our panelists, our Beta, Shannon, Afyang, Lana, Yanni. Thank you all so much. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us tonight. So this session, just like all the other sessions, is going to be up for replay on YouTube. Once we get done processing it, it'll be over there. We've got the link to the speech contest toolkit in the chat. There's the link to the YouTube playlist over in the chat. So if you don't have those, go over to the chat, you can grab them. And that way you or your officers, your club members, other folks you know, you can brush up on everything that's going on training-wise in the contest season on YouTube. So that's a wonderful resource that our PQD and district leaders have put together for us. And with that, 1 minute to go. It's late on a Thursday night. Thank you all so very much. We will see you on the next session, the next meeting, the next live in person. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Great job, everybody.
Thank you.
Agreed.